Okay, we're back for part 2 or part 4B, and let's just continue on. It's time to talk about the last couple of subjects, really the last full-time subject, and that is changing the Constitution. So there's a bit to talk about here. There's two processes. There's a formal, and then we'll call it an informal process. So the formal process is the process we call amending, and it's been done 27 times. It is all set up in Article 5. Article 5 is the amendment article, and it has 2 stages, and you have to know both stages, and you have to know each option in each stage. So there's the proposal stage, which again, there's 2 options, and then there's the ratification stage, which there's also 2 options. So the depth you have to know is into these 2 options, so we're going to go right into them. The proposal. First of all, one way is Congress can propose an amendment, and keep in mind the numbers, 2/3 of a vote in both the House and the Senate, and then that would make the amendment proposed, and then it's going to get pushed out to the states then. Please notice that there is no set role, there is no role that the president plays in this formally where the president has to approve or anything. The president is not involved. However, the president, with the political power and clout a president has, can certainly have a big influence on a constitutional amendment. If the president supports it, that might be better for some people then to go ahead and be able to support it as well. So remember, 2/3 of the House and the Senate, and then it will go out to the states. That is the way that has been used every time. Or a convention called by Congress at the request of 2/3 of the state legislatures. Again, this one has not been used, but it is a way to happen. And again, note the number. For proposal, whichever way it is 2/3. So either 2/3 of Congress or 2/3 of state legislatures asking Congress to call a convention, then Congress must call a convention. And just again, remember that one has never been used. So once it's proposed, once that is successful, then it goes to the states for ratification. And again, there's 2 ways there. So number 1, Congress will choose. In the instructions that get sent out, it says you will do it this way. Okay, so there's 2 ways. First, ratified by 3/4 of the states, of the state legislatures. So again, make sure you know the number. The ratification is 3/4. A higher bar. The approval or the proposal is 2/3. Ratification is 3/4. So they must be ratified by 3/4 of state legislatures. All 27 of them, except for 1, have used this process. The other way is to be ratified by special conventions in 3/4 of the states. And again, if you look at the very top, Congress will decide this. Congress says, do it this way or do it this way. Now, the only one that was used this manner or this mode is the 21st Amendment. If you remember that, maybe it's the only amendment that repealed a different amendment. So the 21st Amendment repealed the 18th Amendment, which of course was prohibition. So the 21st then repealed prohibition. And now the reason, it's good to know, why did Congress choose this way to do it? Well, they did it because they knew that the state legislatures would not approve. So that's what's behind my picture there. Some of the state legislatures, or enough of them to make 3/4 not happen, do not approve, still wanted prohibition. So they chose to do it with conventions chosen by people because they knew the population, the majority of the population in the country was for repealing prohibition. So again, that's the one way that one was done. The rest of them were done the other way. So just remember, when you put them together, it's 2/3, either proposal way is 2/3 of something, either ratification way is 3/4 of something. Okay, so since there was a formal process, there's actually an informal process. Obviously something not set up in the Constitution, but it's changed the meaning of the Constitution. The major one, the first one, is judicial interpretation. And again, remember, Marbury versus Madison is the case. That's all you have to know right now about Marbury, is that it's the case that set up judicial review. And again, judicial review is not written into Article 3 of the Constitution as to what the Supreme Court or what the court system does. So what happened was, in the Marbury case, in 1803, basically the Supreme Court said the Constitution means what we say it means. And it's been that way ever since. So again, it's not in the Constitution, but something we've operated under since 1803. That's not to say it's wrong or bad, it's just the way it happened. The second way is the nature of politics, political practice. The creation of political parties. If we look back, and remember, we looked at Federalist 10, and James Madison is talking about how bad factions are. Well, political parties would be considered factions. And so what's interesting about that is James Madison becomes part of a political party. The parties basically started to happen in the very late 1790s, and the first election that really had two political parties in it was the 1800 election. James Madison becomes part of that Democratic Republican Party and becomes president, the leader of that party in 1808. So it's a little bit different, but political parties are a creation that maybe changed the meaning of the Constitution. In addition, the Electoral College, and what we're talking about is the selection of electors. The Electoral College is there. It was actually modified by the 12th Amendment because of the fiasco that the 1800 election was. Maybe you remember that from U.S. history. It's the selection of electors. So initially, the framers expected to exercise their own judgment. That's what's behind the picture there. Expected to the electors to exercise their own judgment. So you voted for electors, a slate of electors, and you voted for them to make their best choice for president. That is not the way it is anymore, because now electors are basically rubber stamps. In Georgia, it's a state law. Whoever wins the state of Georgia, the electors must vote for that candidate when the Electoral College meets. And there really isn't going to be an issue, because if the Republican wins, there's a group of Republicans that are the electors. If the Democrats win, then the Democrats have a list of electors that would go to the Electoral College. So the chances of somebody not following those rules is very, very remote. Although it does happen here and there, but it hasn't affected the outcome of an election. All right, so there's two more informal processes. Number 3 is technology. The mass media, the way media is, and this started in the 20th century, can reach huge audiences very quickly. You add on to that the advent in the 80s and 90s of the computers and the internet, and then now into social media. Things happen fast. Electronic communication happens. We have nuclear weapons now. If the Soviets, sorry, that's old, if the Russians were to launch an ICBM against us, then we have 30 minutes max to be able to respond. The advent of aircraft, space flight, all of this new technology, what that has done is it has increased the presidential powers. The presidential powers, the powers of the executive, have increased, no doubt. And one of the reasons is because of technology. Things just happen too quickly. Congress is not meant to act quickly. You got a president, one person can make decisions and act quickly. You've got Congress, a total of 535 people. They can't do anything quickly. So technology has changed the roles without amending the Constitution. And lastly, the increasing demands on policymakers. We are now a superpower. We are now the superpower. We're not insignificant. In the end, when you look at it, back in 1788, 1789, the United States was a fairly insignificant country. It's not anymore. So there's an unbelievable increase in the demands policymakers have to deal with. Foreign and domestic policy, all of those demands have also added to the executive being more powerful. I'm going to go back at that one. Oops, I can't. So the executive is more powerful there as well. And lastly, then, this is the last slide. What have they created as a whole? A flexible, adaptable system. Something that allowed us, we're the future generations, to adapt without needing a total overhaul, to be able to change things the way we saw things perhaps needed to be changed, and do it without having to do what they did, was go in and do a brand new document. So the framers really were able to ensure with what they created, and they weren't really sure what they created, at least as far as how long it would last. The survival and the continued strength of the Constitution is in part because of the flexibility built into the system that wasn't built into the Articles of Confederation. Okay, so we are done with the lecture portion. You've got your assignment for Federalist 51 today. Then the next thing is a quiz. So make sure you've got all 4 parts of these videos. You look at them. You've also got just the plain PowerPoints if you want to go back and review those for the quiz coming up. So good luck on that. And we are ready to go, ready to roll into this and get into federalism. Thanks.